watching FRCD on CAN TV. And let's switch over. Family Resource Center on Disabilities is the Region 1 Parent Training and Information Center of Illinois. You can reach us at 312-939-3513. We encourage you to email us at info@frcd.org or visit our website at www.frcd.org. We also encourage you to follow us on Twitter at FRCDPTI and subscribe to our YouTube page at FRCD1231. You can also find us on Facebook. Family Resource Center on Disabilities is not a law firm or a legal service agency. And we're back. Hi, my name is Paula Wills. I'm the Outreach Coordinator at Family Resource Center on Disabilities. And on FRCD CAN TV, we discuss special education, parent advocacy, and resources for families of children with disabilities. Today our topic is bullying. It is a topic that is felt at the hearts and minds of pretty much all of us. I think at some point we've all been bullied in school or at some point in our life. But what I'm talking about today goes a little bit deeper than typically being teased on the playground. Typically, we just wrote that off as the code of the schoolyard. Children dealt with their problems. But these problems can often escalate, and sometimes, and actually oftentimes, bullying tends to center around students who tend to be more marginalized, particularly students with disabilities. So first, we're going to discuss what does the Statute of Illinois say about bullying. Prior to 2019, we didn't have a statute, but at this point in time, between the school years of 2019 and 2020, the school year, during that school year, a policy or more of a statute was implemented so that all public schools, non-sectarian/private schools, non-public schools, and charter schools were to create and implement policies concerning bullying prevention. These policies must also be reviewed and reevaluated every 2 years and to be updated to reflect any necessary and appropriate revisions. So that's something that if you are an advocate of not just children with disabilities, but just children who are bullied in school, that is something you're going to want to keep in mind. Does your school have a policy? Does your, how we're actually coming up on that second year where the policy would need to be reviewed. Has the school done it? There's a lot more to the guidance and explanation of that statute, but before we go into that, I also want to discuss what do we mean? How is bullying defined in Illinois, particularly when discussing school bullying? So we have our definition. We have bullying is defined as any severe or pervasive physical or verbal act or conduct, including communications made in writing or electronically toward a student. So when we say electronically, we're talking about cyberbullying, emails, toward a student or students that can be reasonably predicted to cause one or more of the following. So let's go to, can we go to the next one? The next slide, yes. Placing the student or students in reasonable fear of harm to the students or the student's personal property. So what do we mean by that? So when we're talking about harm, I mean, this kind of goes to probably what we used to see in 80s television, a student being shoved into a locker, a student being pushed in, around on a playground. These things often were seen as trivial, but as the students who were bullied have grown up, have experienced long-term mental effects, in access to the general curriculum as a result of being tormented at the playground or in the classroom. The next one we have is like causing substantial detrimental effect on a student or student's physical or mental health. So as I kind of mentioned before, think about how it feels to be, pushed around or being called out your name or being mocked. So these things do have an effect on mental health, especially when the student feels powerless. So another one we mentioned is substantially interfering with the student or student's academic performance. Now this is very important. I mean, they're all important, but this one in particular. Bullying can be the denial of FAPE. So think about that. If you're a student who is receiving special education services, that means you have an IEP. That means you're entitled to a free, appropriate public education. If you are a student that if your child is being bullied, that can be seen as a denial of FAPE. What are the changes that you're noticing in your child once you've learned that they've been bullied? Or are you noticing changes in your child? Do they not want to go to school? Do they seem like they get ill when they talk about a particular subject or just the concept of school or a particular student in that school? Are their grades slipping? There could be a number of things that could be affected as a result of bullying. I'm not necessarily saying that it is bullying, but with a little more probing, the student may reveal to you that they might be getting picked on. They might be getting laughed at. A number of things could be occurring with the student, but part of the reason why it is a denial of FAPE is because the student is no longer able to participate or access the general curriculum, and which is one of the purposes of an IEP. They are not able. It is difficult for them to maybe pay attention in class. They may not want to go to school, like school refusal. You ever seen situations where a student just doesn't want to go to school? Maybe some student, we think back during the quarantine period, there were some students who probably thrived in a remote environment. Depending if it was like physical, if the bullying was physical. Maybe part of the reason why they were thriving is because they weren't being picked on. It could be a number of things. I'm not saying that's necessarily the reason, but it could be. So then we come to the fourth part, substantially interfering with the student's ability to participate in or benefit from the services, activities, or privilege provided by the school. So yeah, when we're talking about that, it's exactly what it sounds like. So you think about gym class, extracurricular activities. Maybe there are, lunchtime. You think of, a number of things that could come up. I remember way back when I was in school, sometimes the school will offer a afternoon that is would be considered like a fun field day. But if you're somebody who is bullied, you're really not going to have much fun because you're probably not going to people are probably going to be picking on you the entire time. Can we go back to that previous slide? There is a link I wanted to visit because I want everyone to know where can you find this access to the statute and guidance. So is it at all possible we can click on the link? If not, no worries. But basically where this link is taking us is to the Illinois State Board of Education page where it houses the statute and guidance on its bullying prevention policy. So as you can see here, you're going to have, it's pretty much a lot of what I just said. And if you scroll down a little bit and click on the Bullying Illinois School Code, you can actually access the actual statute as well as they also provide a bullying prevention policy guidance webinar. So if this is something that you want to learn more about, if you are school personnel, if you are a parent, an advocate, this is an excellent start to kind of understand how you can go about making sure that your school is the school that your child is attending, or that school district is inclusive, that there is a bullying policy, and is also an opportunity to help parents if their children are bullies or are victims of being bullied. Thank you so much. Can we go back to the PowerPoint? I think that's PowerPoint, but either way, we can scroll down. But either way, I will say this. I've talked a lot from the side of a person that is bullied, who is bullied, and I'm going to kind of focus on that point because that's typically the families that come to us. But also, the bullies themselves have rights, and sometimes there's a reasoning behind bullying. When we discuss the topic, and this topic tends to take over a lot of our trainings, when we talk about bullying, a lot of things come into play. Not just the student who's being bullied, but the bully themselves. Is the person who is the bully, the question is, why are they doing the bullying? Do they realize that they're bullying the student? Is that a person who may need services themselves? So bullying is not necessarily as cut and dry as it sounds. This kid hit my kid and I want justice for my child. I want my child to feel safe. Of course you want the student, the victim, to feel safe. But we also want to make sure that we get to the bottom of the story. What is the actual situation that occurred? I am going to talk a little bit more about the statute itself of bullying. Because there's a couple of actions that the school needs to take, and it should be included in the policy if an incident of bullying has been brought up and is documented. So the first point we have is that it requires that a district's bullying policy or implementing procedure shall include a process to investigate whether a student act of bullying is within the permissible scope of the district or the school's jurisdiction, or is within the statute. So, does the act itself, does the bullying, the event, the child being pushed down, does it fall within what is defined as a bully? To be considered bullying. That's probably the first thing they're going to first determine. Then next they're going to look at involving appropriate school support personnel and other staff persons with knowledge, experience, and training on bullying prevention as deemed appropriate in the investigation process. Now, this is the key word. You want to make sure that these individuals who are doing this investigation have some form of training. This is extremely important because simply having someone come in and say, okay, so-and-so did this, so-and-so did that, this is what, do they know how to probe for more information? Is it, who are the witnesses? Are these parties objective? You want to make sure that the personnel has had the opportunity, has been trained on how to manage these situations. Another point, I think we need to go back one more slide. I think, unless I put two of them in. No, I think backward. I think we went forward. Awesome. Okay, yeah. And then I think we have, so and then these other two. Requires that the district or the school provide the victim with information regarding, provides the district or a bullying policy implement a procedure shall include a process. No, I think we need to go up one more. That's backward. It's okay. No worries. That's the one. They all look alike. And I thank you, to the wonderful people helping me manage these slides. Yes, they do kind of start to look alike after a while. But if you are the person being bullied, I assure you this information is very important. It runs together until it happens to you. But it requires that the district or the school provide the victim with information regarding services that are available with the district and community, such as counseling, support services, and other programs. So back in the day when you would get pushed down, humiliated, someone takes an inappropriate picture of you while you're in the bathroom. Back in the day, you were pretty much, it happened, you go home and you deal with it and just wait till something new happens in the school and nobody no longer is talking about you. Well, under this statute, they are supposed to provide counseling services and support to the victim of the bullying to ensure that they can continue to go on, that that the mental stress that was put upon this victim has addressed, and that they can and develop some coping mechanisms that may not really that could enhance their education as opposed to hinder it or cause the victim to develop new harmful behaviors. So this is something that is supposed to happen. Also, in the next note, we have requires promptly informing parents or guardians of all students involved in the alleged incident of bullying and discussing as appropriate the availability of social work services, counseling, school psychological services, and other interventions and restorative measures. Yes, so it's not just enough to support the student. You also want the parent to be aware that this has occurred, and what are we doing to try to rectify what has happened. Now, a couple of things is, let's say you are the parent of a student who's being bullied. Here's a couple of things that you're going to want to note if your child comes to you or you discover that your child is being bullied. First thing, you want to make sure you notify the school. You want it on record that you are aware that your child is being bullied, and we always say do this in writing. Document everything. Get an account from your child of what happened, when it happened, where it happened. Consider taking your child to their pediatrician and or getting a mental health evaluation. Sometimes and that's something that's completely up to you. You may decide that this is not necessary. That you and your child you may not need to go this measure. However, if you're concerned that the event itself may have harmful mental effects on your child, it might be worth going to a pediatrician or a licensed professional to discuss and evaluate depending on what the act was, that how it has affected your child. Now, we also have a Gepster Letter, and thank you so much if we could click on that link. Now, basically what this letter is, and this is typically in a situation where the school is not acknowledging that the student has been bullied, or you have been going back and forth, and this is not supporting. The school is not being very supportive. This is a document that a parent can tailor to themselves that allows this parent to put on file that they know that the school, and make the school aware that their child is being bullied. And just to kind of read a little bit, it basically goes like, I am writing on behalf of my child, name of child who is in such and such school, and insert the protected class here, race or disability, student attending, the name of the school, the district that is being discriminated against and bullied repeatedly and during her school days. So the letter pretty much just goes into that, what has occurred, and then also making them aware that they know that the school receives funds and what's the word I'm looking for? Funds and other financial compensation to provide their child with the free, appropriate public education. But this letter is really designed to make sure that parents understand and that the school understands, has record that they are aware that their child is being bullied and that the school needs to take action. So as we go into the next slide, what could action look like? What do we mean? Like the student is being protected. So has the student been separated from the area, from the bully or the situation that is harming the student? Because when we're addressing bullying, one of the first things you want to do is you want to protect the victim. The next thing is, has the school gotten to the bottom of what has happened? Again, bullying can be, depending on the individual, it can be a little messy, because sometimes you have a student who has may have they may perceive that the situations that they were being bullied. Maybe the person was like joking. They may not be able to may struggle with social cues. So what they may perceive as bullying may not be bullying. The other thing could be, that the person who is actually maybe performing the act of bullying isn't the source of the bullying. You might have a group of kids hailing insult at your kids, but where did it start at? What was is there a ringleader? Is there a particular person who is orchestrating, this to happen? That's what I'm saying. It's not necessarily a cut and dry thing. It's not simple as, Susie hit Billy and we need to discipline Susie. Sometimes it's it's a lot more to it. Sometimes bullying, the situation might be between family members. This can get really hairy. So it's very, very important that you get as much as possible to the core of what's actually going on, as much as you can. In the statute, in the guidance, they say that they should determine within 10 days. Not necessarily. And then one thing I want to point out is that here's an additional resource that parents can, students can utilize by stopbullying.gov, where you can find out more things for bullying prevention, action you can take, various types of bullying. Sometimes things don't seem like they could be bullying, but there's extensive research on some of these things. So I highly recommend, in addition to visiting the Illinois State Board of Education website, is also visiting stopbullying.gov. So I would say that going forward, if this is something that you're certainly concerned about, I highly suggest that you contact Family Resource Center on Disabilities. If you want to know more, if you just have questions on just bullying, what your rights are, how can you research this topic, we can certainly help guide you. This is not an easy cut and dry thing. You still have to follow privacy rights of the students, both sides. So, and it's also very emotional. So at this point, I strongly encourage you guys to give us a call at 312-939-3513. You again visit our website. If you have questions about special education services and bullying, again, my name is Paula Wills, and again, I am the Outreach Coordinator at Family Resource Center on Disabilities, and I am pretty much, as we could say, signing off for the day. But thank you for joining us this week. And again, if you have questions, please give us a call. We're happy to help.